Welcome back, aliens. This is Navin Reddy from Telusko Learnings, and in this video we'll talk about one of the method which is very famous when you work with JDBC is forName. So the class name is class and the method name is forName. So we use this method to load the driver, right? So to load and register a driver we use Class.forName. But what exactly it does? So for that, what we'll do is we'll try to do a simple code without JDBC. So let's say we have a class here which is PQR. Okay, so we have this class PQR, and in this class we have a static block. So if you don't know the static block, it's a block which will be executed once you load the class. So we have a static block, and then we have something called as instance block. So this is an instance block. So let's say if I print here and I will say this is in instance, and we'll print here this out in static. Okay, and if I run this code, so you can see we are not calling anything from the main method, and if I run this code, so you can see we got nothing. But as soon as I create object of PQR, so I will say PQR obj equal to new PQR, and if I run this code, so you can see it executes the static block and then it executes the instance block. Now why is the case is because whenever you want to create the object, so this is, let me just write here in the comment, so this is instance block and this one is a static block. So whenever you create an object, so before creating the object it will first load the class, and while loading your class it will call the static method or static block. While you are creating the object it will call the instance. Okay, so that means whenever you create the object you get two things, the static block and the instance block, right? But let's say I don't want to create the object, but still I want to call the static block. So what we can do is we can load the class. So in order, so if you load the class it will execute the static block, right? Now how to load the class? So to load the class we have to use class.forName, and we can specify which class. So I want to load the class which is PQR. Okay, it may throw an exception, so let's run this. So let's apply the exception. If I run this code, you can see we got in static because we are not creating the object, we are just loading the class. And then we have a method which is new instance. Okay, it again throws an error, I guess. Yeah, and let's run this. Yeah, so if I say dot new instance, it will create the object. So when you say dot instance dot new instance, it will create the object. But if you just say without this, if you just say dot forName, it will execute only static block. So that's the advantage of using class.forName. But hold on, whenever you work with JDBC, so that's the funda of class name. Okay, so we use class.forName to load a class, so that when you load the class it will execute the static block, right? So whenever you work with JDBC code, right, so you write this statement which is driver manager, we create the object, right? So we say connection con equal to driver manager, and before that line, so before this line, so the step is you have to load and register a driver, right? So how you load? So whenever you want to load the driver, so we need to use something called as driver manager dot register driver. In this you have to create object of the driver. So this is the statement we should be using to register a driver, because we have to register the driver service here. So let's say if you are working with MySQL, so you have to load a MySQL driver. If you are working with Oracle, you have to load Oracle driver, and to do that we have to first use this driver which is MySQL connector. So the address is com.mysql.jdbc.driver. okay, so it will throw an exception. Okay, let me just write in general exception here instead of writing all this stuff. There's an exception. So this is the step we have to use. So this is the step which is responsible to load the driver, right? So let's say, or register a driver. So let's say you are using Oracle, so it will be Oracle driver here. But instead of doing this stuff, what if we can just specify com.mysql.jdbc JDBC.driver. So this stuff here is same as this thing. But the question arises, how it's same? It's because whenever you go to the driver class of your MySQL connector, in this you have a static block, and this static block does the same thing which you are trying to do. Sounds simple, right? So this thing here, so whenever you call class.forName, it will load the class, right? This class, and whenever it loads, it will execute the static block, and whenever it executes static block, it will call the method which is register driver. So that means you don't have to write this statement because you're writing class.forName. So that means whenever you want to register a driver, so class.forName is not the method which registers a driver. It is actually the static block of driver class which loads the driver. This, or which registers a driver. So this class.forName, it just loads the driver so that you can register a driver here. Okay, so that's the basic understanding of class.forName. So that is from this video, and do subscribe for the videos.